The Iowa Hawkeye women have found the Sweet 16 once again. Congratulations to Lisa Bluter and company. A big time win over the Georgia Bulldogs in Carver, and certainly not a routine victory. This was a gritty game against a tough defensive minded Bulldog Bulldog bunch. And Iowa's got to play better to advance past the Sweet 16. I'm convinced of that, but we can certainly celebrate the win today, rightfully so, because the Hawkeyes earned this one, and they were in a position there in the third and fourth quarters where, yeah, perhaps you start to flash back to a year ago and the loss to a 10 seed in this very round against the Creighton Blue Jays. And that could have easily started to play on the minds of Caitlin Clark, Gabby Marshall, and that entire veteran roster. And they did not allow that to become a barrier. Iowa, strong finish to this game. Georgia, what an interesting team. I mean, they've got a lot of really good athletes, very sound defensively. They make so many mistakes on offense. Heck, Iowa turned the ball over more than they ever should in a tournament setting, especially at home. That's got to get cleaned up. Gabby Marshall was really good, made a bunch of threes today. I thought Iowa's zone was poor, to say the least, at times. But again, you give up 66, usually that's going to be enough, especially when you're Iowa. And Iowa, this was just kind of a back and forth affair. And at one point, Georgia took the lead in that second half, and the Hawkeyes rattled off 7 straight and never really looked back. This game was not over until the final minute. You had some tempers flare, at least some animosity, or maybe some strife. What's the right word I'm looking for? Some tension there at the end between the Hawkeyes and the Bulldogs, and you just kind of wanted, with 3.8 seconds, you wanted both of these teams to get off the court. You wanted Caitlin Clark to take the high road, and I think she pretty much did. There were a couple hard fouls, one on Clark, one on Gabby Marshall. The one on Clark, I think, was maybe a little bit exaggerated by Caitlin, to be quite frank, when you watch it back. It was clearly a push. It was the right call to call that a flagrant, or as they say in the women's game, an intentional foul. But the one on Gabby Marshall, I thought that could have easily been a flagrant 2, and excuse my ignorance about how that's labeled in the women's game. I guess it's not considered a flagrant; it's considered an intentional foul. But there's got to be an intentional 2 foul, right? And I don't know the difference between a flagrant 2 in the men's game and whatever the equivalent is in the women's game. I thought it could have been considered a flagrant 2. Not that it really mattered with 3.8 seconds, but thankfully, Caitlin and her team managed to keep their tempers down and in check, because you certainly wouldn't want any last second throwing of arms or any controversy that could endanger your status for the Sweet 16 in about a week, or a little less than a week. So congratulations to Lisa Bluter and company. Big accomplishment today. We know how hard it is to get to this round, to get to the Sweet 16. The Iowa men have proven that since 1999. It's a difficult thing to do, and the women absolutely earned it. Again, didn't play their best, but won the game, right? You survive in advance. This is the epitome of survive in advance once you get to March. And the Hawkeye women are doing just that. And they've won how many straight games? 5 straight games in tournament play now, dating back to the beginning of the Big Ten tournament. So, again, congratulations to the women. We're here talking about it, taking your phone calls, taking your chats and questions, comments, etc. If you are new to the show, please hit that little like button at the bottom of your feed. Please subscribe to our channel here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Even though we're heading into the offseason with football and men's basketball, we'll still have coverage for you on a variety of topics. So be sure to hit that little bell for notifications. And we've got call-in shows every single month, folks. So again, that concludes the off season. Stick it right here. Keep it right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Our dear friends over at Iowa Smokehouse are sponsoring our show today, and we want to give them a quick shout out before we get to our first caller, one of our regulars here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Again, thank you to Iowa Smokehouse and their terrific snacks. If you want a better tasting, better quality snack, and who doesn't like meat, visit iowasmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing with this Iowa company. Use that code Hawkeye for 15% off your order. Enter that code at iowasmokehouse.com. And if you purchase $50 or more on that order, you'll get free shipping. That deal is good through the end of this tournament. So be sure to get in on it now. Visit iowasmokehouse.com. We appreciate them sponsoring the content here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. All right, let's get to our first caller of the day. Ryan, appreciate you calling into our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line, sir.
Hey, Corey. Hats off to the ladies. Just it's really good to see, even when we're not firing at all cylinders, that we can still take on a very, very good defensive team, hold it together, not get blown out, not let it get away from us. Caitlin, even when she's not having a real good shooting day, she still found ways to win the game for you. Something like all but 2 points in the whole second half were she was responsible for. That's just unheard of. And so just my one concern is the rebounding. I think it was 43-29. We were out rebounded. I thought we were slow to the ball when it was contested. That's definitely a concern. But again, this is a very, very well coached, gutty team. I thought Georgia played fantastic. Diamond Battle is amazing. She's really a good player, and she played a very clean game in all aspects, both sportsmanship wise and on her floor game. Um, I don't know how Isaacs doesn't get thrown out. She essentially did a jab right into Gabby's face, punched her basically. And I thought on the Caitlin one, the gal had Caitlin's wrist and wasn't letting go, and that's you know, and did kind of shove her a little bit too. So
A little bit of acting, though. I mean, can we agree it was a little bit of acting from Caitlin?
uh no, no,
Okay.
no, no.
Hey, listen,
But I think they both were the right calls. They both were the
I
right.
agree.
Actually, I take it back. The first one was the wrong call, even though there is 3.8 seconds to go. Isaac should have been,
I
you
can see
know,
that.
she should have been the first one to the shower.
I could see that. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I just, like I say, I got nothing against. It was the right call. I have no issue with Caitlin Clark selling it. I just think she sold it, but it was absolutely the right call. And like I said, there was some jawing before that last inbounds pass too, and I almost just wanted, like, part of me, and maybe that's just dumb, but they were up 6? Were they up 8 at that point? Or I guess they were up 6. They were up 6 at that point. So you're up 6 at that point. Part of me wants Lisa Bluter to get Clark out of the game, because you just don't want anything with her chippiness, her mindset. You don't want anything to happen there in 3 seconds, and you almost feel just get her out of the game. Put Molly. I know Molly Davis was banged up a little bit, but get somebody in there who can catch the ball, make a couple free throws, and head to the locker room. But it doesn't matter. They were managed. They managed to keep their cool, but that last situation was a little unnerving for me.
Well, it seems like, boy, I'll tell you what, the women are way more vicious than the men are when it comes to some of the cheap shots. But like, there was the one in the Ohio State game where, the I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she basically slammed Caitlin to the ground and tossed her a little bit.
So think about that. Let's just think about that.
Yeah, yeah.
I made the comment 2 days ago. Once we've hit tournament play, it's been that way all regular season. But teams end up, just think about it. Teams end up playing Iowa very physically, and I think a lot of the physicality, not all of it, but some of the physicality is due to frustration. Like, it's clear the way Iowa plays and the persona that Caitlin Clark has, it gets under people's skin. Like, it doesn't seem like every game there are plays as Iowa fans where we're looking at this, we're like, that's a dirty play. I see somebody here. Well, Joseph says it's a bunch of sore losers. Mitchell says very classless. Seems like we say that every game. I don't think Iowa's doing anything unsportsmanlike per se, but I just think the persona that Caitlin Clark leads on and the way this team plays, and they're very difficult to stop, and that's frustrating. Iowa does a pretty good job taking the high road, and that's going to be key because teams could easily start to get under Iowa's skin. I mean, anybody from Caitlin Clark to the coaching staff skin, and they got to take the high road because their availability is the most important thing as we move down the stretch here.
Well, all Caitlin does is just, kind of caters to the crowd to get them up and loud. cheer on whenever there's a dirty play, or she has to take some intentional free throws. Um, I think she's doing it the right way. I do understand your point, though, that if there is any way where the game is done, get her out of there just so somebody who doesn't just take a cheap shot at her. I think Gabby Marshall, quite frankly, was a little bit of a target because she hit 5 3-pointers. And, if she was, a role player who had a quiet day on the court, she probably wouldn't have gotten punched in the face. But that's essentially what it looked like to me. Um, it looked like it hurt her a little bit too. So I really hope she's okay.
Yeah, and like I said, talk about availability, and not only Marshall. I'm sure Marshall. My guess is she'll be fine. I don't think it didn't look like she lost a tooth or anything. I think she just got her lip banged up. But then you have Molly Davis's situation. It looks like she's okay, although she didn't play much at all down the stretch. And then you have the
Hannah, we need
injury.
Hannah.
Yeah, you have the Stolke injury. So they're playing a little bit banged up today, and you hope now with at least 4 days off, right? It could be 5, at least 4 days off. You're going to be in a situation where you can get healthy. I hope.
Right.
Hannah's injury is sounds like she warmed up, went through warmups. They're going to need her, whether it's Duke or Colorado. I'll say this, and this isn't trying. I'm not trying to sound, uh, doomsday like, but if this game was played on a neutral court, I don't know that Iowa wins. I think that home court gives them at least
Mm-hmm.
the 8-point margin that they won by today. Maybe they'd beat Georgia on a neutral court, but I thought Georgia played just as well as Iowa did, with the exception being a few turnovers. But as I mentioned, I mean, Iowa turned the ball over. You said your big concern was rebounding. Iowa turned the ball over 17 times. That's
And
way
Georgia 18 though.
yeah, Georgia 18. Both teams played very sloppy, and
Right.
Georgia does force the issue. They jump in passing lanes, but I thought Iowa was careless with the basketball, especially early, especially in that second quarter. Not a good second quarter. Iowa jumped out to a 10-point lead. I think it was 31-21. Again, careless passing. They missed some bunnies. Sonano missed a couple bunnies today. But again, the one difference between the game on Friday and the game today is those role players hit shots. And even though Iowa won by 50 against Southeastern Louisiana, they weren't hitting shots. Today, Warnock makes a couple threes. Gabby Marshall makes 5. Kate Martin,
Yep.
1 of 4. But if you can get, if you can get a combined 8 threes out of those 3 role players, you're going to win a lot. It's going to be tough to stop you.
And again, it kind of comes also down to we just flat out hit the 3-pointer better than they did. And we have the best table setter in college basketball. Even if she just happens to be one of the elite scorers in the game, but she's also the best table setter in the game.
Yeah,
She's an advantage nobody else can match,
this game
which
was won
gives us a chance every day.
not only because of Georgia's mistakes, Ryan, but because of Caitlin Clark's ability to find her open teammates. I mean, that's as simple as I can put it.
Yep.
Iowa moved well without the ball, and Clark did a nice job finding her teammates. Clark didn't. I mean, Clark was just okayed it. I mean, I had 22 and 12, but just 3 rebounds. I mean, she kind of had a lesser stat line than we're accustomed to seeing, especially in Carver. But what she did with the 12 assists, finding her open teammates, she was 6 of 17 from the field. She was really, really good because of her ability to see the floor.
Absolutely. And she was obviously the difference. We had 0 points off the bench. Obviously, I think Stolke is a big reason why. Hopefully, if she can come back next week, she'll help close that rebounding gap that I think we sorely missed. And hey, you know what? Duke is not a 2 seed. We are. So I'm gonna keep expecting us to go.
Absolutely, Ryan. Appreciate you calling in,
Thank
sir.
you, guys. Thanks,
We'll get you
Corey.
next week. Thank you, sir. All right. We're plugging along here. Again, the number to call if you want to call our phone line is 515-635-1601. You can also click the link in the description below to a call like Ryan did by means of StreamYard. We'll go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Let's head to Tony. Tony, how you doing, sir?
Good. How about you? Are you?
Doing good.
I think I heard you right, and I want to make sure. You agree that the first one with the slap to the face was definitely an intentional foul, correct?
I think they both were. They both were intentional. I think the first one could have easily been a toss. I think that could have easily been an ejection. Just the nature of, you watch it, and here's the deal. The explanation on that is if you're pro Iowa and you're rooting for an ejection there, don't use the claim of, well, she wasn't going for the ball. Of course she wasn't going for the ball. She was trying to foul, right? Nobody goes for the ball in those situations. You're trying to foul, right? You're trying to hack because they have to stop the clock. However, you can foul without hitting somebody in the face. And once you get above the neck, right, or above the shoulders, any contact there has got to be you got to be very careful how you officiate those things. So I wouldn't have been surprised if they had called it an intentional on the floor. I would not have been surprised to see them go to the monitor and upgrade it to, again, whatever it's called. Is it called a flagrant 2 in the women's game? I don't even know what it's called.
They didn't, usually they go over that stuff on the, they'll pop up, whenever they're doing the review, like, oh, they're reviewing for this, that, and the other. I think what I was trying to add on to, and, I've told you my history of being a soccer official, like what we're looking for, especially at this level, is like the ball was down low. She went high. Like she went to her eyes, and she could have easily, players of that skill level, they can go for the ball and get a foul without missing by 2 feet and hitting the head, as opposed to, I think the ball was down at their knees or something like that. It seemed like, you know what I mean? Like when they slowed it down.
I'm not defending defending the girl who hit her.
Oh, I'm not defending her. Yeah.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is 2 things to keep in mind there. Marshall's really short.
Yeah.
And the gal who hit her is pretty tall.
Yeah.
Just saying, like.
Yep. Oh, no. And I agree with what happened. My take was, I think Caitlin exaggerated the second one.
I agree. It doesn't matter, but I agree. She exaggerates a lot, but I mean, so did you ever watch? I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, heck, did you ever watch Kraft? What's the
Aaron Kraft.
Aaron Kraft,
Ohio
State.
Well, like, or Davidson.
Well, I don't want to bring his name up. I don't want to compare Caitlin Clark to Brad Davison.
Yeah, I get it.
But Aaron Kraft, I never thought Aaron Kraft was dirty.
No.
But a lot of people didn't like him because he played with an edge. And yeah, sometimes you got to sell a call. Now there is the flop rule that I hardly ever see called. I don't know how much has it been called once in any of the tournaments?
Not from most of the games that I've watched. I have not seen the flop rule enacted or enforced, or however you want to say. Like the officials have not used it.
It has not, as this season has gone on. We have not seen that officiated consistently. So, anyways, no, the Clark second. I just want to make clear the Clark intentional foul there at the end was the right call. I'm just saying there was some exaggerating there. The way she fell. That's just what it is. That's just the game.
There's no reason for the girl to use both hands to push her.
No, she'd already fouled her too.
Yeah.
It was excessive. So it really was, honestly, it could have been called a foul plus a flagrant. I think it is calling it flagrant.
Like you said, I don't know, like, and that's weird. Like I saw the official kind of like this, like when she did it, I was like, I'm used to it like this, or, like, I don't know how they do the inflate. Yeah. The women's game is a little different, but
a little bit different.
But the thing that sucks is the women's game is more in line with every other level of basketball except men's college basketball. But the whole quarters versus half thing, and being able to
I'm all for quarters, by the way. I'm all for quarters. In the
advance
NBA,
the ball.
Advancing the ball. In the NBA, they do call them flagrant fouls.
Okay.
So I don't now there are quirks in the NBA as well. Now you got clear path fouls, and you've got different type, so there are quirks in each level of basketball. Yeah.
So you also the other thing I'll say, because I enjoyed the game, the 24th and the 26th is what I'm seeing on the official website are the dates for when they'd play. So I believe that's Friday, Sunday.
Okay, so that is official. That's already been set.
Well, that's what they have on the website, like the NCAA website official bracket. It just says 3/24 TBA. Like they've already assigned each region dates.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because it looks like the other region, the Seattle 3 region, because I guess we're the Seattle 4, the Seattle 3 plays on the 25th and 27th. So they play actually Saturday, Monday. And we play Friday, Saturday. If I have I should know because the 26th is my birthday. Yeah, that's Sunday. Yeah. So Friday,
it sounds
Sunday.
like Friday, Sunday. So you got 4 days off. Hopefully that's time to heal the what sounds like to be like an ankle injury for Stolke. The whatever that was with Molly Davis. I mean, they put her back in the game, so clearly they didn't think that was a serious knee injury. The way she got rolled up on, first of all, that should have been a foul.
Yeah.
Whether it was intentional or not, that should have been a foul. But you do worry because they're not real deep. Like, I know they got a lot of players on the bench, but they don't play a lot of gals, and that's to be expected this late in the season. But if you lose a couple of your rotational players, all of a sudden you're down to 6 gals that you play. I mean, they were down to the one bench player that they were playing was Addison O'Grady. With Stolke out, with Molly Davis out, who am I missing there? I guess a Falter was playing here and there. But, they don't go real deep. So you hope that they can get completely healthy by next Friday because they're going to need everybody.
I'm hopefully going to be able to find a Hawkeye-friendly bar. I'm going on vacation starting Wednesday to Monday. I think we'll be able to find one down in Phoenix, I hope. So the other thing I wanted to add, so I want you to sit down before I tell you this score. I don't know if you're watching the men's.
You think I'm standing right now?
Well, I don't know. I just wanted you to brace yourself. But
Okay.
Michigan State is beating Marquette 18-8. It was 18-5. They just took 3. But
good. The Big Ten is Tony. The Big
Yeah.
Ten is desperate right now.
Yeah.
Michigan State and Indiana have to win. They've got to both get in the Sweet 16. There's a chance they both lose.
Oh, there is. Yeah, I think both of them were underdogs, if I recall. I mean, according to the betting lines.
Indiana's the better seed, but there's a chance they both lose. And if the Big Ten gets 0 teams in the Sweet 16, we're talking about the men right now. If the Big Ten gets 0 teams in the Sweet 16, that's a problem. I don't think that's going to happen. I think I pick Michigan State and Indiana. I think both to advance.
I do too. And I think this is, you would think it'd be at least a 50-50 or maybe a pro Michigan State crowd because Columbus is a lot closer to East Lansing than Milwaukee is to Columbus.
I'm not totally bought into Marquette. We'll see.
No.
Shaka Smart's done it before with VCU, but
did you also? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I would not be shocked to see them.
Did you see the pregame press conference with the Georgia coach when she was describing the Iowa player?
I saw something about that. Tony, you're going to have to explain that because I saw something about it. I don't think I ended up watching it.
She described the one as, the one with pretty eyes who hits the outside shots. Like That was her little description of each player. Oh, the big one she didn't know usually these coaches know the names you'd think, but she was just using descriptions.
Names or numbers. Usually numbers at the bare minimum. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did see weird reaction to that. Yeah.
It was, and then the other coach for the first round, she had some interesting things to say about how they were going to slow Iowa down, and it seemed like that motivated.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, there's something about Iowa. I think they're perceived a certain way nationally because of Caitlin Clark and because of how they play. And what's crazy about that is I don't think you could have a nicer group of girls. Like Iowa's not full of a bunch. I'm not saying that Georgia or Southeastern Louisiana those teams are filled with a bunch of poor sports either. But obviously, it appears like both of those teams maybe did some things in these last 2 games that they probably regret. Iowa's got a lot of good character, high character players. I think it's a reflection of their coaching staff with Lisa Bluter and Jan Jensen and company. And, again, Caitlin Clark, we've said this so many times, she plays with such an edge. But I do think she's a really good person. From everything I know about her, she's got an attitude, but a lot of people do. And especially, look at the best competitors in basketball all time, like Kobe Bryant. Like anybody who thinks Kobe Bryant didn't have an attitude, have an edge. But there is a line that you can cross or that you should avoid crossing. And I think for the most part, she does that. I can see, I've heard some people, even Iowa fans, who get a little tired of her. But I'm not going to question it. No. She's fantastic.
They were, and if you want to, use some evidence in your corner, watch that post-game press conference in the first round with Caitlin Clark. You could see they could definitely have said something, but they were like, no, you could tell they had a good game plan and they were playing defense. It's just we play, you know, like she took the high road. That I
Well,
guess.
here's the thing too, Tony. There are times when I'm watching Iowa and I'm watching this team play, and it's been this way for 3 years now, where I look at a shot that Caitlin Clark takes and I say, that's early. It's a bad shot early in the shot clock. And then I think to myself, but she makes them sometimes, and she's giving you, 30, 10, and 10 at times. I guess you live with it, right? I've said the same thing about Steph Curry at times. I guess you live with it. And here's the other part of it. As I mentioned earlier, 12 assists today.
Yeah.
She is a great passer. She as much of a scorer as she is and shooter as she is, she's also very unselfish. And I know some people from the outside world would say she is selfish because she takes shots from the logo and etc. But man, she late in this game, the crowd's on its feet. It's sometimes a natural time for the star of a team to take a big shot to try to, take the roof off the place. Almost every time down the stretch today, she found an open teammate. And that's what you want from your leader, regardless of their ability to score.
Yeah, no, I mean, she has great. There's that one where she was like, right by where the coach usually stands, where Bluter stands and all the coaches, and she just lasered it right to the lane to, I think it was Sonano for a layup, and other more selfish players or team stars may not have done what you said. I mean, and the triple doubles are always with assists, so to get 10 assists in a game almost consistently is pretty impressive.
It is, and
it's
she's doing that. Here's the other thing about this: as high potential this team has, and I do think this team can get to the Final Four if they get the right matchups, they play their best. I think they can get to the Final Four. But with that being said, Tony, like I watched South Carolina. I watched the second half of the South Carolina game prior to this game starting. I was nowhere close. This isn't an insult to anybody, but I was nowhere close from an athleticism standpoint, nowhere close to a team like South Carolina. I mean, not even in the same stratosphere, but they make up for it with great passing, with great teamwork, with really good skill, which is what Iowa the men's team has done for a long time. I think the women have been able to close the gap on the premier athletic teams more than they ever have in the past. They've done that this year as a result of experience and leadership, etc. So I'm really impressed with how they play. I think that's how I've been critical of their defense. It wasn't very good at times. That zone makes me incredibly nervous. It seems like it breaks down more often than it works. But as I've said so many times, it's not like the men's lack of defense, because the men don't have the offensive firepower to overcome it. Now, sometimes they do. We've seen it at times, but more often than not, away from home, the offense breaks down, they don't make shots, and the defense isn't good enough to save them. I wonder if this women's team will break down enough offensively. We know last year they did against Creighton. It broke down enough offensively that the defense wasn't able to save it. But again, I don't think they played very well today. They turned the ball over 17 times. They shot the three pretty well, but they got out rebounded 42-29. I mean, those aren't great numbers. Those are pretty bad numbers, frankly, but they still win by 8 because they just have skill everywhere. They have shooters everywhere, and big moments. They've got a lot of different options they can go to, and Clark is great at finding them.
And just survive and advance. Doesn't matter how. Just
absolutely.
Get the W. Well, thanks for your time, Corey. I appreciate it. I'll see you maybe on Friday, because you'll be doing another post game right after the women's.
Yep, we'll be here throughout the. Let's hope this lasts a couple more weeks, Tony.
I'd like it to.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Michael in the chat. Appreciate you bringing this up, Michael. I didn't address this the other day because I wasn't aware that it happened until I got off the air. He says, tough week with Spencer Lee losing, Iowa men shooting poorly. Awesome to see the women keeping excited. Absolutely the case, and I feel bad for Spencer Lee. I'm not fooling anybody. I'm not a huge wrestling guy. I've tried to do a little bit of wrestling talk, and it hasn't necessarily gone my way in the past. So I try to stay away from the wrestling side of things. But what Spencer Lee has done has been absolutely incredible here at Iowa, and to see him and his mother and that scene the other night, and the people who keep sharing that on social media, like the video of his mom breaking her glasses and all that, like that's. I saw Chris Hassel, I think it was, former WHO guy. I think is he ESPN or CBS or one of those networks now. He shared it on Twitter. I don't have a problem with sharing it, but it keeps getting shared over and over again. At some point, to me, I think it gets a little bit over the top. It is, yes, it's a demonstration of passion and heartbreak, and I can't imagine what Spencer Lee is going through. And yes, he'll bounce back from it, because from everything I know about Spencer Lee, he's got great character, and it's just a terrible way to end a career on the mat. But it gives him an opportunity, as crazy as it sounds, to encounter adversity and respond to it. And that can be very powerful in a person's life. I think that's fair to say. I'm not as old as a lot of people who are probably watching this show, but if you've dealt with adversity in your life, hopefully you've used it to your advantage and you've learned from it. And Spencer Lee's got an opportunity to do that. It's good to see him. I think he supported his team the next day at the arena, even though he had to medically retire basically from the NCAA tournament. So congratulations to Spencer Lee on a terrific career. He's one of the best to ever do it. And yeah, but you just hope that he can use this as a motivating factor moving forward in his life. I have no doubt he'll do that. Don says, what is Corey's beef with Coach K from a couple shows ago? Did I rip on Coach K, Don? I don't remember doing that. I've never been a big Coach K fan. I have heard some things that make me question whether he's always played by the rules. I think it's fair to say a lot of those big-time coaches have had times in their careers where they probably haven't played by the rules. When you hear of specific cases, I think it makes it a little bit easier to be critical, and that would be what I'd fall back on. I've just heard some sketchy things about Coach K and how he's operated, and it's made me question him just a little bit. But obviously, great coach, fantastic record, and fantastic legacy that he left at Duke. All right, folks, our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line is open. The number, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. I'm also going to throw the link back up in the chat again. If you want to call in and talk Iowa women and their trip to the Sweet 16, they'll head to Seattle next Friday, where they'll take on the winner of Duke and Colorado. That game will take place tomorrow, so we'll get to see who Iowa plays. Duke, a team Iowa lost to on the road last year. So there's going to be some familiarity there. I don't know as much about Colorado. They're a 6 seed. Obviously one against one against the 11 seed in the first round. But I think that game is winnable either way. Certainly Duke's got athletes. I mean, they've got great tradition there. The women's program has great tradition there in Durham as well. But I think Iowa's got an opportunity. It's not like Duke's going to have a home court advantage out in Seattle. I doubt a ton of Colorado fans head over to Seattle. Frankly, I think you're going to have a number of Iowa people who go up to Seattle. Now, I had somebody in the chat ask me if I'm going to Seattle. I would love to go to Seattle, man. I don't know if that's going to work. I haven't thought about that. But boy, wouldn't that be fun to go out to Seattle, and would certainly encourage anybody who's interested in attending the Iowa women's basketball game and their Sweet 16, maybe trip to the Final Four, get a couple sessions out there in Seattle in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, and possibly witness history for the Iowa women. Let's head to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Lomansky on the phone, Corey.
Lomansky, how you doing, sir?
I'm having a good day today, I tell you. People mention about staying under control. People comment on Fran McCaffrey staying under control. Connor McCaffrey has an edge to him. Sports is about impacting your will on your opponent. And I remember hearing Dan Gable in person at 2 high school events talk to high school people. And you have to impose your will. So that basketball intelligence, where you cross the line, I don't have any problem with aggressive athletes. Dirty athletes is a different thing, but maybe you can talk about that. But you're not a big. You've talked about Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo, he enforces his will on his players and others, and even that's what I admire about Tom Izzo over his length of career, is how he imposes his will. I'll shut up and have you retort.
Well, Lomansky, I want to ask you a question. Was Georgia, were they aggressive and hard-nosed, or were they dirty? You tell me.
If I they only lost their composure because they saw the loss and they crossed the line. But up until that point where Gabby got hit in the face, I have no problem with Georgia. They were tougher. I was more of a finesse team than Georgia, and thank God we beat them.
There was some smack talk, to say the least. I noticed a couple of times, and of course I watched it on TV. I wasn't there in the arena, but there was some trash talk going on between Caitlin Clark and the woman who was defending her, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I'm sure Clark loves that. Like, at some point, that's going to fuel you a bit. I think if you're defending Caitlin Clark, I certainly don't know the first thing about defending Caitlin Clark, but if I was defending Caitlin Clark, I'd be very careful. I'd be very trying to think of the right word. I'd just be very selective with how much I trash talked what I said to Caitlin Clark, because I do think teams might be able to get under her skin. I think the physical play is going to continue. I think the trash talk will continue, but I do think you have the possibility of unleashing the beast. And she, like I said, she unleashed a different beast today. Not that she doesn't always find her teammates, but she took over the fourth quarter with her ability to pass, and that was great to see.
Well, I'm a big lover of passing the ball because I couldn't shoot the ball. So the only way I could help my team was to pass the ball. There's one thing, though, I'd like to add is that she wasn't quite on her game today, and I don't put it on her. I put it on the Georgia defense. She plays a lot of minutes. The greatest thing about Caitlin Clark, and she had two brothers and a big family, and, she's competitive, but in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, down the stretch with the clock the way it was, with time draining, and maybe having a good defensive play around her or not, they're not falling today. I think her basketball IQ to look for Ciano, to look for open people, is part of her hallmark. She's so basketball intelligent. I have the lead, the clock's going down. I'm going to get an overemphasis, Georgia, on my offensive play. There's got to be people open, and that's what I'm going to focus on the last 4 or 5 minutes. I think that won the game for Iowa was her. Can you imagine, Corey, how hard, I was an offensive player in high school. Can you imagine how tempting it is at home with that crowd to be, remember the 3-pointers she made to beat Indiana?
Yeah. She's
got that in her to just, to what do you call it, deep inside your gut to go with that feeling. She's so basketball intelligent, showed her intelligence today that she can shift gears and have a high IQ. I think it's amazing.
I agree. I think she's incredibly basketball savvy. We always talk about Connor McCaffrey's basketball smarts, and you saw Connor and Patrick were there at the game today, which is good to see. But and don't take that away from Connor. He's a tremendous basketball mind. You understand why his dad's a head coach, and Connor played here, 5-6 years. So you understand that. But Clark has the skill, the shooting prowess, the ability to pass. And Connor's a good passer too. But you're absolutely right about her IQ, her basketball IQ. And I reflect back to the loss against Creighton a year ago. Caitlin's never been a selfish player. I don't think she's ever been selfish with how she plays. And I go back to that Creighton game. You remember who took the last shot a year ago, Lomansky, to try to tie that game and ended up not tying it? But you remember who took that last shot last year against Creighton?
Oh, I should, but I can't remember. You're younger than I am.
It was Sonano. And I believe
that's what I was going to say. Shoot, I would have had it.
And she missed it. You feel bad for Monica for missing it, but Clark I don't remember if Clark fed her the ball, but I mean, heck, Caitlin Clark's the best player in women's college basketball, maybe in college basketball in general. So for her to defer, I guess, in that situation, I think says a lot about her trust in her teammates, and that's what you want. You can have great you can have great individuals, but if those great individuals don't trust their teammates, they don't have supporting cast around them, and they don't work together. It seems like Caitlin Clark's teammates really like Caitlin Clark. And I would think as a coach, when you have a player that demands the ball as much as Clark demands it, she needs the ball in her hands. Yeah, I know she passes the ball off, but she is the point guard. She does a lot with the ball. You could be at risk for maybe some gripe between teammates, and it doesn't seem like they've got that issue at all. Now, I don't know what's happening behind closed doors, but they share the basketball so well. And regardless of how Clark plays, it appears that her teammates have not only a like for her, but a love for her. And that's great to see.
Have you heard about, to this day, the Michigan Fab Five, Jalen and the big guy don't get along even to this day?
Jalen and Juwan or Weber?
No, Weber.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, ever since their playing days, they're not real close. And I agree with you. I think the Iowa women, and I give Bluter a lot of credit for this. I just want to end with this and get other people on your show, but it's fascinating to me. I like history. I like the Civil War. I really look back to history. Iowa used to have two athletic directors back in the day. They absorbed it into one athletic director. I can't remember what year that was. And the women's athletic director was Christine Grant, who hired Bluter. And if you look at bringing a C. Vivian Stringer, who has some history with the Georgia head coach, the history of the Iowa women's program does not get, I talk a lot about Lute Olson, and in fact, they're using Lute Olson's history to defend the Purdue head coach based on Lute losing to like three seeded teams, 13 and older. But we don't talk enough about what Christine Grant in Title IX, she realized Title IX was important. Bluter coached in Davenport for under $3,000 a year, and she talks about her husband supporting her dream of being a head coach. So I just a shout out to the Iowa women's history and what they developed into. It's not talked about enough.
Absolutely, and
Corey, talk about revenue and NIL. Carver's more well attended by the women's game than as good percentage wise as Iowa football.
Well, yeah, I percentage wise maybe, but obviously the easiest correlation you can look at is attendance at the men's games and attendance at the women's games. And now during the regular season, I know the men would have still had an edge, but it was mostly packed in there on Friday. And I get it was an NCAA tournament game, but that was also during the middle of a work week. And Lemansky, I've complained on this very show about Iowa fans not showing up for men's games on the weekend. Now, if this was an NCAA tournament game at home for the men, I'm sure it would be packed. But you get what I'm saying. You're absolutely right. There are passionate Iowa women's basketball fans in this fan base, and there's plenty of people that could be supporting the men. So I look at it a couple different ways. This shows the potential that the men's program has as well. But the difference is, right now, the women have figured out how to win in this tournament. Now, can they make a deep run? We'll see. But the fact that they've made the Sweet 16, I know Circle Herc was joking here in the chat, ho-hum, just another Sweet 16 appearance. It is so difficult to do, and Lisa Bluter deserves a ton of credit. And she is this program has really rich history, but it's getting richer as Lisa Bluter's career here continues. So congratulations to her and that staff.
Yeah, we're getting spoiled by the Caitlin show and her surrounding teammates. What's your opinion of what's going on with Matt Painter and the noise about that he has? I mean, it's amazing to me how Matt Painter is taking some bullets.
Well, I mean, they've lost to double-digit seeds in each of their last 3 trips. So I understand it. I mean, I'm not saying that he obviously doesn't deserve to be fired. They've won a lot in the regular season. Heck, they won a regular season Big Ten championship. They just won the Big Ten tournament championship. But it's all about standards and expectations, Lemansky. And, I mean, we've got expectations here at Iowa, and I think some fans have higher expectations than others. But for the most part, it's if you make the tournament here at Iowa, you're good. Now, in 1999, that was happening, and Iowa decided to do something, go a different direction. And I think that will always be a regret of some people who were pushing for that back in the late 20th century. So it's all about expectations. Matt Painter's a really good coach, but I do think the Big Ten as a whole, and this is a topic we can have for a different day, but the Big Ten men's programs and the conference and the officiating, all of that, there needs to be a close look taken at how everything is done. And again, I do think that officiating should be looked at. I don't know if that's the solution, but something's not right because I see them prefer, like earlier in the season, I think they won. Am I correct in saying I think they won the ACC Big Ten Challenge, or it was really close? They won the Big Ten Big East Challenge. This conference is struggling once again in this tournament, and we'll see what happens with Indiana and Michigan State. But if they don't get anybody onto the Sweet 16, we got a big problem here, and it's hurting them in seeding. I think we saw that with Selection Sunday.
I think you bring up a good point about the differences in conferences and what it takes to go forward. The only thing I'll say, I'm very proud of the clean programs that Iowa has run in different sports. And I'm going to infuriate MVP right here. But there's a lot more horror stories about the SEC and whether they follow the rules. Of course, now we have the Wild Wild West. And I like the Pac-10 at night. And one of my favorite guys, if hopefully he's not listening to me, talks about USC and their history. And I'm just very proud of Fran McCaffrey when he came to Iowa and say, we're going to run the program in the right way. And we're going to follow the rules and grab your armchairs, folks, because we got the Wild Wild West and NIL and money flying all over the place. So when you're upset and you don't want to support your team, maybe remember that. And I'll hang up and enjoy your show, Corey.
Thank you, Lemansky. Appreciate the call, sir. Good stuff. And yeah, I appreciate the fact that everybody who's called in so far has just been appreciative of this moment because, I'm sitting there as this game, the clock hit 0 thinking, this is great. This is great. But I'm not, I'll admit I struggle to get as excited because they've been here before. And that is the epitome of not necessarily appreciating or maybe taking for granted the moment. This is a special thing to get to this round of the tournament. Now, it'll be even more special if they can get to the Elite Eight or even to the Final Four. But it is hard. I said this before. I'll say it again. It's hard to get to the Sweet 16. It's hard to win in this tournament, regardless if you're playing at home or not. We saw that last year with Iowa losing to Creighton. And this needs to be the next few days. We need to just enjoy the hype, enjoy the moment because it's hard. And this is a good conference. Like Iowa did this year in a good conference. They run through the Big Ten tournament. You could argue they deserved a 1 seed. I'm fine with them being a 2. I don't really think it makes much of a difference. I think they have a fine draw, and they got an opportunity to make history on Friday. So exciting stuff here in the state of Iowa. Aaron says, no acting. Come on. Okay. Like I say, I'm not ripping Caitlin Clark's personality. I'm not nothing personal against Clark. I'm just saying at every level of basketball, there's a little bit of acting. That's all I'm saying. That's, anybody who's played basketball knows that there's acting that goes on, and the officials have tried to cut down on flopping, which I support that. I don't think it's necessarily been enforced, but the foul on Caitlin Clark there at the end was absolutely an intentional foul. Should have been a flagrant foul, which it was called on the floor as a flagrant. But it was clear that was the right call. Sean says Dan Gable won every match except his final one. Yeah, it's amazing the parallels. And I'm not a huge wrestling history buff, but amazing the parallels. Some of the parallels between Dan Gable, Spencer Lee, and I know as an Iowa guy, I don't look at Dan Gable any differently. I wasn't alive during I wasn't following Iowa wrestling during his heyday, but he will still. He's got a statue outside of Carver, so it's going to hurt for a while. But Spencer Lee's legacy will live on despite the loss. Michael says, just saw a national headline that Caitlin Clark broke the Big Ten single season assist record today. Big Ten single. Okay, so we're not talking just Big Ten conference play, I guess. If that's the case, I didn't see that. I haven't gotten the official game notes yet from the university. In fact, I don't even have the official. Okay, I do have the official box score, so we'll run through that here in a second as well. Again, we're talking about Iowa's Sweet 16 trip and their 74-66 win over the Georgia Bulldogs in Carver Hawkeye Arena here in the second round of the NCAA tournament on this Sunday afternoon. And here are the official stats from the box score. Again, 74-66 the final. Caitlin Clark finishes the night with 22 points, 12 assists, 3 steals, just 3 turnovers. Boy, you'll take 12 to 3 as it relates to assist-turnover ratio on any day. Monica Sonano, really good as well. Solid, slow start. But Caitlin Clark's ability to find her, and let's not forget, Monica Sonano works for position. That's what makes her so great. She's not a great shooter. Obviously, she doesn't need to be because she works down low, gets great position, seals quickly, holds her position, and converts around the rim. She played 37 hard minutes. Caitlin Clark didn't leave the game today, folks. 40 minutes for Caitlin. Sonano finished with 20 points and 9 boards for Monica Sonano. So 1 rebound away from a double-double. And speaking of double-doubles, McKenna Warnock just 2 rebounds away from a double-double herself. 14 points, 8 boards, 2 assists. Did have 5 turnovers. McKenna was a little sideways, especially early. Some really confounding turnovers. And like I say, Georgia jumps in passing lanes. They're aggressive, and they make it hard. But that'll be something that McKenna Warnock tries to clean up because she was good today. I liked what I saw from McKenna because she's been up and down here of late. Kate Martin, she also had some unorthodox turnovers, finished with 5, also had 5 assists, 3 points, 2 rebounds, hit an early 3, looked really nice looking shot from Kate Martin. She got a great stroke, but again, kind of struggled to get going, but only took 4 shots for the game. And I mean, there are going to be nights, I think, where she needs to make more shots. I think back to the UConn game a couple months back, there are going to be days where she needs to be called upon from behind the arc. Tonight wasn't one of those days, but that her time could be coming down the line. And she has shot well away from Carver, the UConn game being one example. Gabby Marshall finished the night with 5 3-pointers, 5 of 8 from 3. Her hot streak continues. 15 points, 5 of 9 from the field. She took a shot to the mouth there late on a flagrant foul that was called once they went to the monitors. And just 1 turnover for Gabby Marshall to go along with 1 rebound, 1 assist. Sydney Falter played just 4.5 minutes, didn't record any stats. Gaddison O'Grady did have 1 rebound in 3 minutes. Molly Davis played under 2 minutes. So that is the extent of their depth, folks. They went absolutely razor thin today, with Gabby Marshall 38 minutes, Caitlin Clark with 40 minutes, Kate Martin with 38.5 minutes, Monica Sonano with 37 minutes, McKenna Warnock with 37 minutes. I think Lisa Bluter was saying, hey, we can get out of here with the win. We've got a few days to gear up for our trip to Seattle. I don't know when they actually leave for Washington, but they have a few days to get some rest, and they'll be all set. So that's good news. By the way, give you an update on March Madness. The Michigan State men leading right now with 53 seconds left in the first half. The 7-seeded Spartans leading 31-28 over the Marquette Golden Eagles, the 2 seed there in the East region. So we'll see if Michigan State can do the Big Ten well. Izzo, of course, has helped the conference in recent years. I'm trying to think their last, was it 2018 they went to the Final Four? Boy, the Big Ten could use a nice showing for Michigan State. Only got 2 teams left in this field. Amazing, despite the 8 teams that they got in. And by the way, a couple other notes. Rutgers is now out of the NIT. Michigan lost to Vanderbilt yesterday in the NIT. So it's just been a rough postseason. The Big Ten, I think, needs to take a good, hard look. They haven't won a national championship since 2000, since the turn of the century. So anyways, I digress. We can get back to the women. But again, 31-28, the Michigan State men leading the 2 seed Marquette. Rick says that the Bulldogs gave the Hawks the game they needed today. Good defensive team that challenges you to play the entire game. And it will serve them well. Again, assuming they can get healthy, they're going to continue to, once you get to teams like Duke and potentially South Carolina down the line or Stanford, those teams play physical. And I think it will help them. The fact that they've played 2 physical teams to start out things. Seattle is not very good. They did win their conference tournament, so they were playing hot. Georgia's tough. I don't think Georgia's great. Diamond, what was her last name? Diamond, whatever her last name is. You know who I'm talking about. Georgia's star player. She's good, and she can score. We talked about her yesterday. She's a good shooter. She's quick. Diamond Battles, 21 points for Diamond Battles on 7 of 15 from the field. And I guess I can run through some of the stats for Georgia. But again, 21 from Battles, 12 from Javen Nicholson, and then 12 from Brittany Smith, the only 3 players in double figures for the Bulldogs. Got 6 points from Jordan Isaacs to go along with 3 from Audrey Warren, 8 from Alicia Lewis, and Zoisha Smith with 4 points as well. Again, turnovers were a bugaboo, huge bugaboo for Georgia. They turned the ball over 3 times there late when they had a chance. I think it was a 4-point game. They had 3 straight turnovers. You just can't afford to be so loose with the ball in those big moments, especially on the road. And I give the Iowa crowd credit because they really showed up in droves today. And that's the great thing about the women's game, having these first 2 games being played at a home site. Heck, you're getting a lot of fans in that arena that wouldn't normally be able to attend an Iowa basketball game this late in the March calendar month. Lemansky, say hello to Corey and hit your thumbs up. Thank you, Lemansky. Appreciate the super chat. It's great to be a Hawkeye. Imagine the young girls in the backyard pretending to be Caitlin Clark. I'm sure there's plenty of them today, Lemansky, as the weather starts to get a little bit better out. Sunny today, and at least here in central Iowa, and it's supposed to get up into the 50s. I think even close to 60 here in the coming days. Our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line is open. I'll throw the link or the number up on the bottom line if you want to call in, chat about the win today, or possibly the win or the game coming up on Friday against either Duke or North Carolina. Where is my number here? All right, there it is. Bottom line, 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601 as we continue to talk about Iowa's 74-66 over the Georgia Bulldogs. And Kelly brings out in the chat, yes, it was extremely loud there. I'm assuming you were there, Kelly. And I would love to hear from you if you were. If you were at the game, would love to hear what the environment was like. It was loud on TV. I know the officials or the commentators were talking about the decibel level. Will they say like 119? I don't know. I'm not a decibel guy, but that sounds loud to me. And it certainly sounded loud on ABC as well. Dennis brings up Warnock's fight down low. She, again, hit a couple of big shots today, turned the ball over a few more times than you want from your vet, but she's a gritty player. They got a lot of gritty players, and I give Iowa credit because I've questioned their toughness in the past. I don't really question it anymore. They don't have the best athletes. We know that. They don't need to have the best athletes. They're never going to be able to match up to the athleticism of a South Carolina, UConn, or probably even a Stanford. But they've got a lot of gritty players. They've got a lot of skilled players, and they play together, and that's what you want out of an Iowa Hawkeye team. Lisa Bluter is basically giving you what you want. I mean, this is the method of victory, the path to victory in March for an Iowa Hawkeye women's basketball program, and really for the men as well, right? I don't know that the Iowa men are ever going to get the best athletes in the country. I think NIL will help because I think the Swarm Collective is more established than has ever been. But both of these programs, you got to survive off skill. Both these coaches have done a nice job of recruiting guys that can be developed, a la Luka Garza, Keegan Murray, Chris Murray. Go down the list for the Iowa women. Megan Gustafson, Caitlin Clark basically came in ready to be the best player in the Big Ten, best player in the conference. But you develop players, and you're good enough defensively. The men have not proven to be good enough defensively yet, but I think the Iowa women are close. There were times today, as I said earlier, they were not very good. The zone broke down. When you allow so many easy passes to the high post, you're going to get in trouble. A few too many layups for Georgia. But Georgia's a good defensive team. And, to score 74 on that team is impressive. Remember, Georgia held Florida State to 54 in their opening round game on Friday. Excuse me. Michael brings up Molly Davis's injury, and I don't know what the injury is. I haven't been able to listen to Lisa Bluter in her post-game press conference, but when you see a leg rolled up on like that, you worry about a knee injury, although we tend to see ACL injuries on non-contact plays. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a strained something. The fact that she was right back out there on the bench and she did check into the game briefly surprised me a little bit. I think my guess is if Lisa Bluter needed to turn to her, she would have. But it was nice to see her back with her teammates. That would indicate that they don't think it's terribly serious. But again, I've not listened to Lisa Bluter's press conference. Let's back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Brittany.
Hey, Brittany.
I just wanted to give a couple thoughts on the game tonight and just the season in general.
Sure.
Been a women's basketball fan since I was 10 years old. That's how the SEC plays every night, in and out. And traditionally, the only teams that can match the physicality is the ACC. And they don't match it well, but they do enough. The Big Ten, Pac-12 are a lot more finesse. And I think Duke has Kara Lawson there, former Naismith Player of the Year, all sorts of things, who is very much a defensive-minded team. So if Duke can get past Colorado, I think we'll see a similar defensive hustle like we did against Georgia today. And I think that we will really need to clean up our passes. I also think, with Molly and Hannah both out, I think we lost 6 to 10 points there, whether it's getting getting a defensive rebound, taking away from Georgia's offensively. And then Molly Davis just does a lot of stuff underneath the radar, which I think Lisa talked about last week. But just wanted to get your thoughts on those couple things and just kind of let Hawk fans know what we're looking at for Duke next week.
Well, first of all, Brittany, it sounds like you know as much, if not more, about the structure of the league and the conference as much as I do. But I agree with you about Molly Davis. I think Hannah Stuelke's injury, maybe we're not talking about that enough, because you talk about this Georgia team, you talk about their physicality, you talked about Duke, how they play, and again, the Iowa women played them last year. But as you get deeper into this tournament, whether it's Duke or Stanford or South Carolina potentially in the Final Four, you are going to get better and better athletes, and they need Hannah Stuelke back. I said earlier, I don't think if this game was played on a neutral court, I don't know if Iowa wins. I think the Carver crowd gives you that much of a boost. So I don't blame Lisa Bluter for staying somewhat thin with her depth, with her rotation today. I don't know who they turn to if absolutely needed. Like if they get in foul trouble today, I don't know who they turn to. They just give more minutes to O'Grady. You get someone like McCabe in the game. But they're going to need Stuelke because of her grittiness, her physicality, her athleticism. She's going to be more and more important heading down the stretch.
Absolutely. And I think, it's just one of those things where we have to, I've watched this the whole season, and I've seen Megan struggle in games where the posts are more physical. So I worry about Monica, down the stretch when we're potentially facing some of those matchups where there are bigger, more physical, or just as physical players as she is.
Yeah, we did not see anybody that could match her today. Although Georgia, schematically, they do a nice job. I thought early they made things really difficult on Iowa everywhere. And Caitlin was a little bit quiet early. And I think as the game went on, she found a way to, she's so good in every aspect of the game that she finds a way to have a positive impact, again, with those 12 assists today. But Georgia I think they're well coached on that end. I know that some people are upset about the physicality and the antics there at the end. But I thought Georgia did a pretty good job limiting Czinano. But once she got going, you're right, though. You get a bigger post, you get a physical big that makes things difficult on her. She sometimes has problems securing position. And let's be honest, Monica Czinano is terrific. But if she can't establish position before getting the basketball, it's hard for her to score. So, that she moves. She's best when she can work without the ball and obviously work in tandem with Caitlin Clark. But you're right. Somebody like Aaliyah Boston, I know that she's an outlier because she's just a freak athlete and just incredibly big and just tough. But you're right. That will be an interesting quirk if Iowa goes up against a big. I don't know if Duke has a big that can match Czinano or Colorado has a big that can match her, but that will cause issues because then you lose your inside-outside effect as well. It's harder for your 3-point shooters to get open and get space if Czinano's having problems getting position.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'll let you get to another caller, but I just wanted to give you a call and kind of give my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Appreciate you calling, Brittany.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great stuff. And I think Brittany makes a great point. And I don't know as much about Duke as it sounds like Brittany does, but that's a good point about physical bigs. And I'm trying to think of a specific example, maybe the North Carolina State game. I'm trying to think of the best big that Czinano has gone up against. She has no problem dominating undersized fives. And, she's pretty good. I feel like when teams have tried to double her, which has come here and there. She has been one of the more dominant post players in the country. And when teams have tried to double her, for the most part, she's really good at passing out of the double team, making good decisions with the ball. She's not a high turnover player. And so you do wonder, though, when she gets up against a physical big that she can't exert her will on and she can't secure post position on, how does that change how Iowa approaches the game? And that's why I think that's another reason why I think Hannah Stuelke is so important. Get her back because she's a different – if she's a 5, she's a totally different type of 5. And she's going to be really important down the stretch. If Iowa's going to go from the Sweet 16 to potentially the Elite Eight or the Final Four, I think it's going to have to be, I think Stolke's going to have to be a part of the game plan. So you hope she can get healthy by Friday. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Kelly Emerson. How are you?
Kelly, how you doing?
Hey, just got back into Bettendorf from being at the game.
So
My ears are ringing.
Tell us about the environment, Kelly.
Wow, I tell you what, I was at the 2 NCAA games last year, and in the Creighton game there towards the end when we were trying to make a comeback, and it was so loud. It was way louder than there today, I thought.
It felt like that on television. I'd have to go back and listen to the game a year ago, but it felt like it was as loud as that arena has been, regardless of team. I mean, regardless of the men or the women, it sounded as loud as it's ever been this season.
Oh yeah, and throughout the game too. It wasn't just towards the end when we started pulling away. I mean, it was all throughout the game. It was just amazingly loud. It was crazy. It was electric. It did get, it was a little tense because, the game was probably a little closer than we would have liked. I thought Georgia had a really good game plan. I thought they were very aggressive in their defense.
Yep.
Especially like just waving their hands in our faces. I think it was a good game plan. And like you said, Caitlin may not have, gotten a lot of shots in today, but she sure did find a way to distribute the ball and really be in control there. And hats off to her for not losing her cool there towards the end, because, we've seen her get frustrated in games and kind of lose it a little bit. So I think that's really shown where a lot of her growth has come this year in, keeping her cool and staying focused.
Yeah,
so I
agree.
Pretty huge.
I agree. One of the bigger keys heading down the stretch. I mentioned Hannah Stolke and Iowa's ability to try to match the physicality in the post when you've got bigs that can battle Sonano down low. But I do think Caitlin's ability to rein it in at times. We haven't really seen her cost her team, and certainly she doesn't want to ever do that. But I'm just saying, at times when you allow your emotions to get away from you, you run the risk of potentially costing your team. We see that from Fran McCaffrey at times, and we haven't really seen Clark do that. And Clark she's constantly playing with an edge, and that's great. But she could have easily been tempted into making a bad decision today late with 3 seconds to go. I give her credit for allowing cooler heads to prevail. I was watching the handshake line closely because we've seen some fireworks in the men's game. Looked like everybody took the high road there. So that was good to see. But her ability to keep herself in check while still playing with the edge that makes her so great will be crucial.
Yep, absolutely. And then talking about Hannah Stolke, you had mentioned that she participated in warm-ups. She wasn't out there right away because I happened to notice that. I was looking for her and didn't see her. I saw her walk out there late, so I kind of had an idea something was going on. And then to see Addie O'Grady go in there first, you knew something was going on. I had to jump on Twitter to see what was happening, why she wasn't playing. So very disappointing for her that she didn't get to play in the last game in Carver for the year.
But again,
hopefully she'll get healed up.
Yeah, in the long run, that's it's one of those things. I know Houston, the men, played without Marcus Sasser, and they even, I think their head coach admitted the next day that, hey, he probably could have gone, but we wanted to hold him out, and they were able to manage to escape Northern Kentucky. I think if you're Lisa Bluter, you're probably thinking, boy, I'm glad we didn't play Hannah Stolke today, because just get out of there with the win. And I know that's tough to do in tournament play when it's win or go home, even though they were already home. But the fact that they were able to hold her out and still win, Kelly, obviously is huge. And now you allow her, you don't risk further injury, because if she gets set back, like I said, I think down the stretch, she's going to be more and more important.
Right. Yeah.
And on the great point by Jordan here, Kelly. I was going to say, great point by Jordan here, Kelly, in the chat. He says, talks about Stolke's rebounding. the edge today on the glass was substantial, and it's partly because of how Georgia plays. But 42-29 on the glass, Hannah will help that once she returns.
Absolutely. Yep. So
Appreciate,
that's all I had.
yeah, appreciate you calling in, Kelly, as always.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you, man. All right, a lot of great calls today. Appreciate everybody being a part of it. And the caller who just hung up, we had him on hold. Feel free to call back. We'll leave the phone line open for you just another minute here as we continue down the stretch, talking about Iowa's win and entry into the Sweet 16. Congratulations to the best, or to the Iowa women. Pat says Hannah is our best rebounder. Her loss today was costly. She will definitely be needed going forward. Randy, the announcer said something today, but everyone needs to recognize we have the best assistant coach in the nation in Jan Jensen. And absolutely, I mean, staff retainment is huge in college basketball. And that's another thing you got to give Lisa Bluter credit for. She's managed to retain Jan Jensen, who I'm sure has had opportunities to coach other places. So congratulations to this whole staff, because they've obviously worked really hard. I do wonder what this team is going to look like after Monica Sonano moves on, because Hannah Stuelke's not your typical 5, but let's just enjoy the moment now. And, like I said, if you can get Stuelke back healthy, if Molly Davis, I think Molly Davis is important, and Brittany earlier brought her up. If you can get healthy by Friday, and I think you're going to get a contingency of Hawkeye fans that travel to Seattle. I don't know how many. But if you can get that to happen, they got a chance to advance, regardless if they play Duke or Colorado. Let's go back to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Who's on the line?
But if you can get that to happen.
Hello.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you're on the air, sir.
I'd like to see this.
Yes, you're on the air.
I'd like to this game.
Say that again.
I'd like to look at this game. I don't know what's going on.
You'd like to look at the game?
Yeah.
Well, we're on this is our post-game show. Did you mean to call us?
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing. Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
I'd like to see the St. Mary's game. That's all.
Oh, the St. Mary's the men's game.
Yes.
Well, they're on TNT. They're playing UConn over on TNT.
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 Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that was a first. I don't think I've had that before. All right, let's go back to our call-in line. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
It's Roger.
Hey, Roger.
Hey, I just called in. I thought the difference in the game was Hannah Stuelke. That would have changed things dramatically.
I agree.
That switches the total rebounding totals around. I think she goes up and gets 5 to 7 rebounds. You take those 5 to 7 off, you got a pretty even rebounding game. She gets a couple putbacks, and that totally changes the tempo of the game and how it's played.
Yeah, I agree. And let's not forget too. Georgia had. I mean, Georgia had too many offensive. I'm trying to find the official stats here. Offensive rebounds for the game. Georgia ended up with 13 offensive boards. That's too many. I think it's fair to say that if Hannah Stuelke's in there, not only on the glass but defending, that cuts down on some second chance opportunities for Georgia. So I agree with that. I think she makes a big difference, and that's why I keep saying I hope she gets back by Friday.
The other thing I think she would have brought to the game, we started getting the ball in at the free throw line, and McKenna and Kate kind of turning and they wouldn't turn and face the basket. And I think Hannah Stuelke would have got the ball at the free throw line, and that would have given us a lot more options to attack the basket. I mean, she drives the ball. She also can kick down to Monica really well. So that's another aspect I think we lost when we lost her.
Yeah, and that's I do wonder down the stretch here. I would not be shocked, especially as Iowa. We'll see who they play in Seattle on Friday. But I'd love to see Lisa Bluter run. I know that they're not real deep, but I'd love to see her run Stuelke and Sonano together at times I think you have the ability to really dominate in the glass. And if Iowa's dominating the glass, they're almost impossible to beat. Georgia dominated on the glass today, partly because of Stolke, I think, being out, partly because of how they play. But they dominated on the glass today and still lost. So if Iowa's winning on the glass, I think they can. If O'Grady's giving you enough minutes where you feel okay with, her spotting Sonano 5 to 6 minutes, I think playing Stolke with Sonano can provide that advantage on the glass that maybe helps Iowa to beat a team that maybe has a little bit more athleticism than a typical Iowa team.
Yeah, thing I was a little disappointed in. I listened to the head coach of Georgia's post-game conference, and she basically, so many words, said, we were the better team today. If it wasn't for all those free throws at the end, we would have won. Well, we had all those free throws at the end because of the cheap shots, and they were behind.
Yeah, I
thought that was kind of second class.
Yeah, I saw the comment here from Dan in the chat. He says, in Georgia's post-game remarks, their coach refused to acknowledge Clark scored at the end. She kept saying they held her to 16, only mentioned her points, not her assists and passing. All I will say is I don't have anything against Georgia. I know nothing about their head coach. But sometimes when you see some shots at the end that appear to be cheap shots, that's oftentimes a reflection of the staff. Not always, but that's oftentimes a reflection of your coaching staff. So perhaps that explains some things. I don't know. I haven't heard the post-game remarks, but whatever. Like I said, move on, and you can be sour and complain about the loss all you want, but you're going home, and Iowa's heading to Seattle.
Yeah, and the other thing, the TV announcers I thought did a great job. The number of points that Caitlin Clark was connected to in the second half was like all but 2 or 4 points through her play.
Yeah,
whether it be scoring or and the Georgia coach contended that she wasn't the best player on the team on the floor. It's like, what game are you watching?
Yeah, well,
who does that? Who controls the entire scoring of an entire team?
Well, like I said, 74-66.
Yeah, I got it. But I mean, it's the passes that she was making from the distance she was making them was just unbelievable. And she knew right when Monica and these people were coming open. And going in and get that basket off the dribble into the lane, she went when she needed to go.
And I don't know what she averages as far as shot attempts on the season. My guess is she typically averages more than, I would guess, she averages more than 17 shot attempts. I could be wrong on that. But she kind of struggled from the field today. More 4 of 10 from 3. It's not terrible. 6 of 17 from the field overall. But I do feel like she just, as the game went on, she just adjusted her game and said, hey, I'm going to be a facilitator. And like I said, I think she'll be as great as she is. I think when her career ends, and I know it's nowhere close to being done, but when Caitlin Clark moves on, she will always be underappreciated for her ability to pass. I don't know where she's going to rank all time in assists, maybe first. But she's sure to be underappreciated with her ability to pass. And that's a great aspect of her game, and it's going to be part of her legacy, and rightfully so.
And I think, too, she recognized the fact that she wasn't having her best shooting. I mean, she was a little short on some easy 2-point shots, and she just adjusted, and she pulled Iowa through with them, and she did what she needed to do to win the game. Yeah,
absolutely. That's what you want from your best players.
Yeah, so, I mean, hey, we're going to Seattle, so,
absolutely.
That's the great thing. So, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate the call, sir. Yeah, good stuff. I have not. I'll have to look up the Georgia Post conference because I have not been able to do that. But look, I mean, you can be salty. I don't know. I don't know why. I know there was some tension there at the end. You expect the adults to be adults, but that's not always the case. Okay, a couple comments in the chat I didn't want to miss. Ramsey said, how come Iowa never takes the open 12 to 15 footer in the paint? Several players got to that spot, looked confused, and then turned it over or passed to a low percentage shot. I did see that happen, I think, with, Martin, I think, once. I guess I don't have an answer for you. Iowa does tend to, I mean, this is this team is somewhat reliant on the three. And that's typical in college basketball, whether you're talking about the men or the women's game nowadays. But great teams score at the rim and score from behind the arc. And so the mid-range is kind of a forgotten art, Ramsey. As much as I love going back and watching classic NBA games where the mid-range was everything, you don't see as much at any level anymore. And so, I would love to see the mid-range be more of an aspect of college basketball, but it seems like players either shoot layups or threes, and that's just how it is. Joseph brings out, how about Jack Nungy and Xavier today? Congratulations to Jack Nungy. I posted a photo of him smiling on my Twitter account. I'm just proud of that young man. And I was thinking to myself, would I rather Iowa, the men, make a Sweet 16, or would I rather Jack Nungy make a Sweet 16? I don't know that I have the answer to that question. I'm an Iowa guy. I want to see Iowa win. They haven't been to Sweet 16 since 1999. But what better moment can you imagine than watching Jack Nungy get to a Sweet 16? His last year in college. I think it's fantastic after all that kid's been through. I was just thrilled to death for Jack Nungy. Tim says, off topic here, in the men's tourney, the more physical teams are being rewarded with a lack of fouls being called. Lack of off-the-ball fouls and allowing two-handed hand checks. Okay. Men's team, more physical teams are being rewarded with a lack of fouls being called. Maybe that's the case, Tim. I guess I haven't noticed that. I've watched Purdue really struggle to score. Farley Dickinson, I thought, really defended well in that game. I watched Iowa really struggle to score. I didn't think Auburn's defense was that great. I just didn't think Iowa could shoot. Kind of the same with Illinois. Arkansas goes back and they beat Kansas. So that's obviously not a terrible loss for the Illini, but I don't have the answer. If it's physicality and it's officiating, then it needs to be addressed. But I just don't know what the reasoning on why the Big Ten is struggling so much in this tournament. It's not like they're getting blown out, but they're losing close games. And Penn State and Northwestern were underseeded, or they were the lower seed yesterday. They both lost. And to give you an update on the men's tournament at this hour, folks, Marquette leads Michigan State in a low-scoring affair, 39-36 over on CBS. So we'll stay up to date on that game. The Big Ten needs it. The Big Ten needs a Michigan State win. Ryan says, is there any chance Ava Jones will play for Iowa down the road? I sure hope so. I don't know. I know that the comment's been made by Lisa Bluter that it's unlikely she'll ever play, but I think Ava Jones is going to use that as motivation. Everything I know about her, she'll give it her all, and she'll be here. She's going to be a part of the team. She's going to help this team regardless if she plays heavy minutes, but never count a young lady like that out who's fought for her life already and is playing for more than just herself. I'll say that. I would not be shocked to see her do great things when she gets to Iowa. Eric says, go Iowa, was nervous about the game. Absolutely. Brian says, heat of the moment comments from a competitive coach that despite losing wouldn't hold it against her. She will, that despises losing, wouldn't hold it against her. She will mature with age. I have no problem with that. Okay, let's go to Pat. Yes, I didn't realize this. Georgia coach is from Cedar Rapids, was a star at Georgia her first 2 years, transferred to Iowa, and was a star for Vivian Stringer. I did not realize that until the broadcast brought it up. The ESPN broadcast brought it up today, Pat, so appreciate you reminding me of that. So maybe I'm sure this game meant a little bit more to her. I would not be surprised at all. And she doesn't have Lisa Bluter connections, I don't think, but she does have the Iowa connections. Kelly says, I think they were expecting the defense to collapse, so they look for the open person. Again, Iowa sometimes maybe gets into the habit of overpassing at times. They move the ball so well, though, it's hard to complain about them passing up on shots because they just tend to get great shots by sharing the ball evenly. Mark Rogers here, the voice of college football. Appreciate that, Mark. Please go over and support Mark's show as well. If you love college football content, who doesn't? Get over to the Voice of College Football on YouTube. And, of course, we have a show with Mark Rogers every Tuesday over at his Iowa channel. So check out the Voice of College Football on YouTube. Last call on the phone lines. Don't see anybody having called in, I don't think. I'll give it a couple more seconds. I want to remind everybody that hitting the like button does help. Please hit that little thumbs up button towards the bottom of this video, towards the bottom of the feed. Also, subscribe if you've not done so. You can donate to the channel. Please don't assume others will donate, folks, because it just doesn't always happen. So, especially if you're going to the off season, just realize that I want to continue to provide coverage, but we need your support. So please donate to the channel if you're so willing. Use the links in the description below. PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. You can also donate by credit card, one-time payment, whatever, through PayPal. Click the link in the description below to do that. You can also donate by Super Chat if you so choose. Also, follow me on social media, @FromTheHawkeye on Twitter, @FromTheHawkeye on Instagram. You can look up the Facebook page. It's From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Instagram. Please share the video out on social media. If you enjoyed postgame coverage, it's likely others will as well. So please tell others about the show and maybe even word of mouth. That always is powerful as well. Also, become a premium subscriber. I'll throw that up in the bottom ticker as well. Click the join button next to the channel name here on YouTube to become a premium monthly subscriber. You can also shop Amazon with us. Use our link to shop and make your daily Amazon purchases or your monthly Amazon purchases, whatever the case may be. Use our link, and you're supporting our show by doing so. And of course, we also have merchandise. Check out our merch, men's and women's merch, in the description below. Again, final score here today, folks. The Iowa women with a 74-66 victory in the second round of the NCAA tournament down in Iowa City. The Hawkeyes will move on to take on either Duke or Colorado, who will play tomorrow on ESPNU. We'll see who they play, and of course, it'll be a fun week just to be able to talk about it, and the hype going up, leading up to the Sweet 16 is a great thing. Hawkeyes made the Sweet 16 just a few years ago with Megan Gustafson and company. Now they're trying to break down that barrier to the Elite Eight and the Final Four. Think they have a chance at doing that. Got to get Hannah Stuelke back healthy. You hope Molly Davis is healthy as well. Clean up the turnovers. They struggled on the glass. I think Stuelke coming back will help. They'll be okay. It was nice to see their role players shoot the ball today better than they shot the ball on Friday. So I have no doubt they'll make the corrections. They got several days to get healthy, make some corrections, and we'll see them play next Friday. Appreciate you all tuning in, folks. One more reminder, please check out Iowa Smokehouse. Again, supporting our sponsors is so important. If you enjoy this content and want to see it back next season, support Iowa Smokehouse. Use that code Hawkeye for 15% off your order. Visit iowasmokehouse.com. Tasting is believing with their flavorful meat sticks, their beef jerky, their ketchups, their barbecue sauces. You'll never need to look anywhere else for great snacks, especially game day snacks. Visit iowasmokehouse.com. Use that code Hawkeye for 15% off your order, and order $50 or more in your order. You'll get free shipping from our guys down in Albia. iowasmokehouse.com. And of course, you can find them in your local grocery stores as well. So appreciate Iowa Smokehouse sponsoring and supporting our Iowa women's basketball post-game coverage. Thank you, folks, for tuning in this afternoon. Again, I appreciate everybody calling. Kelly, one more super chat of the day. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that. And I'll do my best to continue providing Iowa women's basketball post-game coverage. And as long as you're calling in and being a part of the show goes on. Of course, we couldn't do it without you. So thank you all for being here. We'll talk to you sometime soon. I will be back for post-game coverage after the Iowa women's Friday game, the Sweet 16 game. I'll be here live, taking your calls, taking your chats. Of course, stay right here for Hawkeye coverage. Iowa Hawkeye men, the basketball team, the women, of course, and of course, Iowa football as well. Right here. Subscribe and like the video. We will talk to you soon. Have a great night.